Thanks, Dean, and good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. I want to start out by addressing one of the latest cases of violence against our Asian American and Pacific Islander community. Just a few days ago, Wei Lin, a 28-year-old businessman, husband and father of two young girls, died after he was senselessly and cowardly punched in the head in Juniata Park while helping a delivery driver who had gotten into a minor car accident. This is the first known death in Philadelphia since the rise of AAPI hate nationally in recent months. Members of our community are filled with pain and grief. We are all devastated for Mr. Lin's family, and we know it's not the only violent act that's occurred. We recognize the trauma and fear inflicted on our Asian American and Pacific Islander community during these uncertain times. So let me be perfectly clear. There is no place for hate or violence in our city against our AAPI brothers and sisters, or anyone else for that matter. Our administration takes these unspeakable acts very seriously. We are working with the police and leaders from the AAPI community to address concerns and create safer streets for all. In the meantime, we encourage everyone to report any acts of hate or bias to the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations by calling 215-686-4670. That's 215-686-4670. An anonymous hotline is also available at 215-686-2856, 215-686-2856. You can report hate in your preferred language, and you have a right to request services in your own language at any time, and this includes 911 calls. The city is committed to keeping our vibrant AAPI community safe. We see you and we stand with you. Now I'll turn it over to Commissioner Outlaw for an update.
Good afternoon. With the summer months upon us, it is critical that we continue to work together with our community partners and city agencies to ensure that people are receiving the appropriate services that they need. On our end, we're working to ensure that the community remains safe. As I discussed a few weeks ago, we've coordinated our efforts with the Parks and Recreation Department, increased patrols around rec centers, and continue to partner with the MDO's office, or the Managing Director's office, on educational opportunities. Our districts and officers are also creating unique summer programming for our youth. The PPD has met with community members and other agencies to prioritize and find alternate funding sources to secure ways to improve safety around rec centers. As an example, the Christie Rec Center, which is located in the 18th Police District, was the site of a tragic incident that occurred in March of this year, the shooting and homicide of 16-year-old Kari Simmons. Besides increasing safety measures, it has made several improvements, including new lighting, fencing, and backboards. In addition, under the leadership of Captain Matt Gillespie, the 18th District is currently producing a skills and drills program that runs every Friday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Our officers were very involved in improving the atmosphere around the center and worked with our Parks and Rec department to outfit the center for video gaming as requested by the youth. As a result of this effort, the PPD will be hosting gaming tournaments beginning in the fall. Stay tuned for the information about the ribbon cutting this month. Also, if you're interested in any of the youth programming available at the Christie Rec Center, please reach out to the 18th District at area code 215-686-3180 or 3181 and ask to speak to the Community Relations Officer. You can also reach out to the Christie Rec Center at 215-685-1997. The 22nd District is also continuing its youth programming. Under the leadership of Captain Nasheed Akil, the Guns Down, Gloves Up program began last year and has seen a lot of success in not only providing the youth with a purpose and a place to engage with others, but these officers have also strengthened their relationships with the youth in their communities. If you're interested in learning more about this opportunity, please reach out to the Community Relations Officers at the 22nd District at 215-686-3220 or 3221. These are just a couple of glimpses into what we're doing, but there are countless programs available through our districts. I encourage anyone who is interested in participating in summer programming to please reach out to your district and speak to your community relations officers. They'll be able to point you in the right direction and let you know what programming is available in your area. In addition to these district-specific efforts, our PAL centers, as mentioned before, under the leadership of Captain Krista Dahl Campbell, They're incorporating additional programming, including 3-on-3 basketball tournaments, 7-on-7 flag football, and a youth summit at each location. Additionally, there are sewing classes, cheer camps, basketball, tennis, and golf camps. PAL will also host movie nights for the community. In order to meet the summer need, the hours have been extended at 10 out of our 15 locations, and children ages 6 to 18 are encouraged to sign up. Please visit the PAL website at www.phillypal.org for more information on the PAL Center closest to you. I also want to make the community aware of one more program in which I encourage our youth and our young adults to engage and participate. If you know someone or are interested in a career in law enforcement, or even just a little bit curious about it, and if you're between the ages of 14 to 20, our Police Explorers program is actively recruiting. The Police Explorers provide an excellent opportunity to see how you can make a difference as a police officer while also having fun. Please visit the Explorers website at www.ppdexplorers.org to sign up today. Finally, I want to thank the community for their help with some of the cases that we've had in the past few weeks. Sometimes being a good witness can mean all the difference, as was the case in Mr. Wei Lin's murder, who was tragically killed after coming to the aid of one of his workers. Someone on location was able to take a picture of the offender, and through investigation, police were able to identify that individual. Chief Inspector Frank Venor of our Detective Bureau will speak more about that case during his presentation. However, I want to point out that help from our public played a very critical role in securing a quick apprehension. As Deputy Commissioner Joe Dales will elaborate further, we're continually monitoring and analyzing the crime data to ensure that we are deploying the appropriate personnel to hotspots throughout the city.
Looked like she froze.
It looks like the commissioner froze. Well,
I'll take over, Dean, if you want to pull up the
yeah,
slides.
sure. Can you see?
Yes, okay. Thanks again, Commissioner. I will start with the citywide homicide and shooting victim stats. Looking at the top of the chart, year to date as of June 6th of this year, Philadelphia had 889 shootings, and out of the 889, 228 were homicides. In comparison to last year, homicides are up 33%, 228 this year versus 171 last year. And the shootings are up 25%. Out of the 228 homicides, 48 occurred inside a residential building. It's not listed on the chart, but 9 of the homicides occurred inside of a commercial building, which brings the total number of homicides that occurred inside to 57. Looking at the bottom of the chart, the bottom left of the chart, it shows the motives for the homicides. The top 3, again, remain the same. Arguments, drugs, and domestics, which domestics is currently up 144% in comparison to last year. And look at that significant difference, 22 this year versus 9 last year. Next slide, please. This slide shows the citywide homicide and shooting victim stats weekly comparison. If you look at the far right, from 5/31 to 6/6, we had 15 homicides, 40 shooting victims, which include homicides, and 36 shooting occurrences. Shooting occurrences is an incident count where an individual or individuals were shot. So we're basically counting the incidents, not the number of shooting victims. Next slide, please. This slide shows the comparison. Okay, there you go. This slide shows the comparison between citywide homicides and homicides that occurred in the pinpoint grids. For those who are watching for the first time, Operation Pinpoint is our overall crime fighting and information sharing strategy that is in alignment with the roadmap for safer communities. Operation Pinpoint is basically a combination of several policing models such as hotspot policing, intelligent-led policing, community-oriented policing, and offender-focused policing. We have over 45 pinpoint grids throughout the city that were identified and established based on data and intelligence that showed high levels of violent crimes within these grids. And if you look at the top of the chart, it shows citywide homicides up 33%. Looking at the bottom part of the chart, it shows pinpoint grids at 0%, which is the same as last year, 81 homicides this year and 81 homicides last year. Next slide, please. This slide shows the comparison between citywide shooting victims and shooting victims in our pinpoint grids. Citywide shooting victims are up 25% and the pinpoint grids are down 12%. 2 weeks ago, the shooting victims in the pinpoint grids were up 2%. So as you can see, we are making progress in our pinpoint grids. Next slide. This slide shows the year-end total VOOF arrests for 2017 through 2020 and the total VOOF arrests year-to-date for 2021 from January 1st to June 6th. And again, for those who are watching this for the first time, VOOFA is an acronym for Violation of Uniforms Firearms Act. So when I mention VOOF arrest, it basically means the person was arrested for illegally possessing a firearm. So in 2020, we reached an all-time high for VOOF arrests that totaled 2,324. And so far this year, we have made 1,281 VOOF arrests. I would like to point out that this time last year, we had 789 VOOF arrests, which is a 62% increase when compared to the year in total for this year. Next slide, please. As of June 7th of this year, 2,651 crime guns were recovered in our city. A crime gun is any gun recovered by the police as part of a criminal investigation. I want to make note that this number does not include guns from buybacks or turn-ins. Last year, we recovered 2,052 crime guns by the end of June. Comparing that number to this year's number year-to-date, which again is 2,651, we are currently showing a 29% increase, which is 599 more crime guns recovered this year compared to last year. Next slide, please. And lastly, year-to-date, 260 privately made firearms, which is also known as ghost guns, were recovered in Philadelphia. I would like to point out that in 2020, a total of 250 privately made firearms, which again are ghost guns, were recovered by the end of the year. Not year to date, by the end of the year. That's the total number for the year of 2020. And as of June 7th, we have passed that number. This shows a significant increase in ghost guns being recovered this year in comparison to 2020 and 2019. So those numbers you see from 2019 to 2020, those are the amount of ghost guns we recovered within that year. So as you can see, we recovered more guns, ghost guns, than ever in comparison to the past few years. And with that, I will now pass it over to Chief Inspector Frank Venor, who is the Chief Inspector of the Detective Bureau, who will speak about cases we wish to highlight.
Good afternoon. I am going to highlight about 4 cases today, all senseless violence. 3 of them resulted in homicides within the city in the past week. 2 of them I'm going to be asking for the public's help. I'm going to start today with the case at 522 West Lehigh, the murder of Christina Lugo, a 40-year-old female. As many of you know, but I'll review very briefly, on June 5th, approximately 5:45 a.m., while Ms. Lugo was entering her place of work to open the business up early in the morning, she was met by a male. That male followed her into the store, produced a handgun, and committed a robbery where we believe he took about $300 in that case. Before exiting the store, he fired 1 time, struck her in the head, and she was found dead at that location. The male fled on foot, and detectives very quickly, in processing that scene, recovered the video. Sometime that same day, that video, images from that video were released to the public, and we appreciate the help we got in this case. One of the first calls we received was from Ellesmere, Delaware. Their authorities had claimed that they reviewed our pictures, and they had a murder investigation that occurred on 5/15 at a cell phone store down there in Ellesmere, Delaware. That particular robbery had some of the very same features as our robbery. 28-year-old female inside the store behind the counter, male produced a gun, fired that weapon, struck her in the head in the course of the robbery, and fled on foot. They had circulated some pictures, very similar height, weight, built. So we began working very closely with Delaware, knowing that we could possibly have a pattern of behavior here. After that incident, on our incident on Saturday, there were approximately 3 other robberies that occur in Delaware. Now, all of this is very active and ongoing, this investigation. Not going to be able to comment much on Delaware's investigation, but what we know now is there were a robbery of a convenience store where a male was shot. There was also a street robbery that occurred where the individual was killed. And then we had a robbery of a Rite Aid in the early morning hours yesterday. That particular robbery led police in Wilmington to an individual I could identify now as Keith Gibson, 39-year-old male. He was taken into custody with proceeds from that robbery in Delaware. He also had a .357 revolver on him. So since that robbery, our Philadelphia homicide, as well as Wilmington, Ellesmere, have been working together, collecting evidence. Right now, because of the new evidence we have, all that evidence has to be scientifically compared to the evidence we collected at each and every scene. But what we believe now is that we believe Mr. Gibson is the perpetrator at the Lehigh Avenue murder of Miss Lugo. I spoke to the district attorney within the hour. They are in the process of approving a warrant for us for the murder of Christina Lugo in that case. All other cases are being reviewed as we speak. Evidence is being compared. This is a revolver. It's a .357 revolver. We're going to have to compare the bullet that was fired, in which case many of those bullets were in the victim, to the gun. This is very tedious investigation, so that's ongoing. I'm sure we'll have more information to put out as we move forward with this investigation, but we will have charges against Mr. Gibson, and we'll work to extradite him back to Philadelphia at some point once they're completed. The case in Ellesmere, Delaware, they haven't even begun their charging process because he remains in Wilmington at this point. I'm going to move on to the next case that I have. This is a double homicide that occurs on Monday, 3/31 at approximately 12:40 p.m. Police in Philadelphia respond to the 500 block of 16th Street in the 9th Police District, where they find two individuals, a Kasim Roberts, 27-year-old male, and Raheem Hightower, 22-year-old male. Both of them were shot. Mr. Hightower was sitting in a Malibu. Mr. Roberts was laying on the highway. Both were pronounced at the scene. This investigation, we had a lot of help from the public. We had video witnesses that came forward right away. That video footage, the detectives worked very, very hard on. We were able to develop a suspect in this case. And at this point, we have a warrant for murder for two murders, double homicide, for Karan Bernard Connor. If you want to flip it to the next slide. He is a 26-year-old male. And I want to remind everyone, in this case, he's armed and dangerous. We have a tip line. It's 215-686-8477, or the word tips. You can call 911. There is, in each and every homicide, $20,000 reward put up by the mayor's office for arrest and conviction of the individual. So this case, we still need help with it. We'd like to take him into custody so no one else is hurt. The next case, if you want to move to the next slide, I'm going to have a video with this case. So at some point, if you want to start that video, I'll try to explain. We're going to make this video available to you. But this case occurs. This is a shooting where we're very lucky, but the individual survived. In this case, 1394 Cecil B. Moore. What we know is our 29-year-old victim and a friend are inside a restaurant making an order when 5 individuals you're going to see in this video walk into the restaurant and are also in line to place an order. At some point during this incident, an argument ensues between the parties. The individual, who I'll describe at a later point as suspect number 1, retrieves a firearm from the individual in the orange shirt from his backpack, follows our victim out into the street and fires multiple times at him. He's struck 4 times. SEPTA police, Temple police respond very quickly and transport that victim to Temple University Hospital, where he is now currently in stable condition. This is another case. We have very good video. We feel that someone may know these individuals, and I'll do my best to describe them and what I have. I have suspect number 1 is described as a white male, 5'10", approximately 225. He has a beard, mustache, tattoos on his neck and arms. And at this time during the incident, he's wearing a Marilyn Monroe t-shirt. Suspect number 2 is described as a white male, 5'7", 160 pounds, wearing an orange sweatshirt and he has an eye basically on the front of it. It's a picture of an eye. He has dark pants on and orange shoes. The third suspect is described as a white male, 5'7", 160 pounds, wearing a light colored clothing, and he also has a visor type hat on. Suspect 4 is a white male, 5'9", 150 pounds. He has a ponytail. He's wearing a gray shirt, and it has "wanted" printed across the front of it, over top of it in graphics, and he has dark colored shoes on. And the fifth subject, in this case, suspect, is described as a white male, 5'10", 165 pounds, hair's worn in a ponytail, and he has multiple graphics on top of his shirt. So anybody who looks at this video, sees these individuals, may know who they are. We're asking for them to contact our tip line, 215-686-TIPS. And in this case, you could even call our Central Detective Division, which is 215-686-3093. The larger individual with the beard is my shooter in that case. And you'll see at the point in the video that you're looking at now, he takes the gun out of the backpack and follows the individual out and fires over an argument about placement in line, which is just absurd. So we really need the public's help with this one. And if you want to change slide to the very last one, I will review the case that the mayor and the police commissioner referred to in the beginning of the press conference. Back on May 24th, approximately 12 noon, there's an auto accident in our 24th district around 4000 block of L Street in Juniata. That auto accident is believed now to be Wei Lin. It was involved in it along with a female. That female and him exchanged information, and at some point during the course of that, she left the area and he remained behind. And there was numerous witnesses. Police took a report. He remained behind with his vehicle. At some point, the defendant in this case, Jose Figueroa, a 30-year-old male, arrived at the scene, was enraged because at this point, our investigation shows, I think the auto accident was with a relative of his. He got into an argument with Mr. Lin and punched him one time in the head. That caused him to strike his head on the ground, and he was immediately, police were called again. He was taken to Temple Hospital. Approximately 3 days later, he succumbed to his injuries. The district attorney did charge Mr. Figueroa, and he's in custody at this point. That's all I have, and I'll